On episode 325 of the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast, I answer a listener's question about strength, flexibility, and some of the other fitness modalities. You can find the full show notes for this episode at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/325. I'd like to take just a couple minutes to talk about our sponsor, Teamy Blends. Their versions of tea are just outstanding. In fact, I like them so much. I went through the stash that they sent me as a sampler pack to get to know them, and I actually just sent off another order for some more of their tea using our discount code 40 plus 40PLUS. If you use that, go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/T. That'll take you to their page. And from there, you can then order using the discount code 40 plus. And I did that myself because I wanted a little bit more of their tea, and I got a 15% discount on my order over $30. So why do I like their tea so much? Well, for one, it really just is blended. And again, their Teamy blend, it's just a good overall mellow kind of flavoring, and it just feels good. I love coffee, but I actually enjoy drinking their tea a little bit more than coffee, and it's helped me tone down my coffee drinking quite a bit. As I said, I was up to about maybe 2 pots a day some days. Now, really just a few cups of their tea, and I'm feeling pretty good. And I'm also now trying their colon cleanse. Since I came back from vacation, I was on a 2-week vacation, and I was a little naughty, so to speak, with regards to my eating and drinking. But that said, now I'm using their tea as kind of just this way to get myself a little detox, get myself feeling a little bit better, and it's working. It's working. I am flushing a little bit of weight, which is what I really expected to happen, and the tea is helping me do that. And the tea is helping me get off of coffee. I feel a little bit more level during the day, so there's not these big spikes of energy, and then I'm in the middle of the afternoon thinking, well, I really don't want to drink another coffee. I don't get that with the tea. I feel pretty good with the tea, and the tea is something I feel comfortable drinking most of the day. So I would encourage you to go check them out at Teamy Blends. You go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/T and use the promo code 40plus to get 15% off of an order of $30 or more. 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/T. Have you decided you're ready to make a change? To reclaim your health and fitness? The 40 Plus Fitness Podcast is here for you. I'm your host, Alan Meisner. I'm an NSAM certified personal trainer with a specialization in corrective exercise and fitness nutrition. Let me be your coach as you find your way on your health and fitness journey. All right, let's go. Hello, and thank you for being a part of the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast. Today's show is going to be a little bit different. I've been doing a lot of interviews lately. In fact, I was just looking at this. Up to date, I've interviewed over 175 authors and experts. So, quite a bit of interviewing going on the show. And I just thought I would mix things up, particularly because I got a call through the SpeakPipe app on the contact page. And the listener had a question, asked me to do a podcast on a specific issue. And I'm like, hey, that's actually a very important issue. And it is something that I think everyone should know. So I wanted to take a little bit of time to go over her question, and it was a good question. So if you have some questions, I do want you to reach out. You can go to our contact page. There's a couple different ways to contact me there. If you'd like potentially have your question answered via audio, so on the show, then do use the SpeakPipe. I can also do that in email, so you can email me at alan@40plusfitnesspodcast.com, and I'll be glad to answer any and all questions. I do answer all of my emails, so if there's something going on and you have a question, please do take the time to reach out. I am here to help you, and I want you to know that if you're needing something and you just don't know the answer to it or know where to look, I'm your guy. Send me an email or contact me on the SpeakPipe, which is through our contact page on the website, 40plusfitnesspodcast.com. So the question today comes from Kiki, and I'm just going to go ahead and play her audio section. So here we go.
Hi, I have been listening to your podcasts, and I was wondering if it would be possible maybe to do a podcast about flexibility and muscle strength, past the age of 40. My physio said that women over 40 should be concentrating more on muscle building than flexibility, but I always thought it should be a balance of both. So I was wondering if I've got it. So thank you very much. Thanks for listening.
Before I answer Kiki's question, I just wanted to remind you that this podcast is sponsored by Teamy Blends. You can support the podcast by going to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/T. And when you're there, if you use the promo code 40plus, that's 40PLUS, you can get a 15% discount on a purchase of $30 or more. They have great tea products. I really enjoy them. I've actually ordered some more. So they gave me a sample for free. I'm actually ordering their tea now. I really do enjoy it, and I know you will too. Go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/T. Kiki, thank you so much for that question. When my clients come to me, they come to me from many different walks of life, different age ranges, obviously over 40, but I have clients in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. So it can vary from time to time as far as what fitness modality that you should focus on. I agree with your doctor somewhat that strength is important, but I also agree that the answer is probably both in your case. So let me kind of go through each of the fitness modalities. There's 5 of them that I think my clients should spend most of their time focusing on when we're over 40. And that's going to be strength, flexibility, which I also kind of define as mobility. So I use those words interchangeably. Total body composition, which includes weight loss and muscle mass. So I include those together. Balance, and then life specific. And so with life specific, that can be things like speed, agility, hand-eye coordination. So let's say within your life, you want to be able to play tennis, or, you want to be able to see, be able to see the ball, or see the child and be able to move around with the kid. So there's different things that you're going to want to be able to do as you age. And so there'll be different fitness pieces that you'll want to put together. And we'll get into a lot more detail in a minute on that. So when we talk about strength, the reason that strength is so important, and the reason probably that's being brought up to you, is that we tend to lose muscle mass and strength once we're over the age of 35. It's a process called sarcopenia. Now, the doctor could have said, I want you lifting weights so you can retain or gain muscle. And in talking to a woman, a lot of times you see them kind of deflate a little bit because they don't want to get bulky. Of course, they believe they go lift weights, they're going to look like a bodybuilder. And that's just not so. You don't have the testosterone to do that. You actually don't have the physical capacity, the energy that it would take for you to put on a significant amount of muscle. You may be able to add a few pounds of muscle, but again, if you're so onto your weight, obviously you're going to be, I don't want muscle, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So strength is a good way to have that open conversation with someone, because they can kind of see a need for strength. If you can't open a jar, if you can't pull yourself up from your chair, if you can't, reach down and grab something off the ground like a bag of groceries, then that's going to be something that's going to be debilitating later. It's going to keep you from having liberty. It's going to keep you from being independent when you get older, because it's only, if you don't lift, you're only going to get weaker. That's just no other way around it. You can't live your normal lifestyle and not lose strength. You have to do resistance exercise to retain or gain strength. So I encourage all of my clients to strength train. I think it's very, very important for everybody to strength train. Now, mobility is also very important. You can't reach down and pick up that bag of groceries if you can't get full range of motion in your hips, knees, ankles. And so having good mobility is important, because if you move incorrectly, you have the potential of injury. So I agree with you that flexibility and mobility are very important modalities for us to maintain. There can be good reasons for you to want to improve beyond what you're doing now, particularly if there's an activity that you're interested in doing. So if maybe you want to go canoeing, there's a lot of mobility that's required for you to be in a canoe and operate that canoe. And so having the ability to get in and out of that canoe, you're going to need good working knees. You're going to need good working ankles. And as you're rowing, you're obviously going to need good rotational mobility. So yes, flexibility is Also very, very important. So those are two, what I would call the prime ones that most people should be doing. Now, I'm also going to talk about total body composition. And so rather than just talk about weight loss, because I think every one of us can probably say, I'd like to lose a couple of pounds of fat or more. But I don't want this to just be about weight loss, because if I lose weight, I might also be losing muscle. And that's not a good thing. You might lose 2 pounds, but if that 2 pounds is muscle, then you're actually in worse shape. You're actually less healthy because now your body fat percentage has gone up. So instead of thinking about what the scale is telling you, you should think of body composition as a percentage of body fat or a percentage of muscle mass, whichever way you want to think about it, cup half full, cup half empty. Most of us are going to go by body fat percentage. Those are things that can be measured. They can be measured with a caliper at a gym. So you can go into a gym and a trained personal trainer can go through a process, the caliper. You can use electrical impedance, although those tend to be off a good bit. And a lot of that will depend on your hydration. If you stay hydrated, they work pretty well. But it can help you give a trend. So you can use them on a consistent basis and see if there's a trend, but don't think that's actually what your body fat percentage is. There's also the submersion, liquid submersion, and the bod pods that use air. I prefer the DEXA scan. There's a price to it. I do it probably about once every other year, just to know. But in a general sense, I can tell by looking at myself, measuring my body circumferences around the waist, stomach, hips, neck, arms, and legs. I can generally tell how I'm doing on my body composition. So total body composition is important because if we allow ourselves to have a little too much body fat, that leads to issues like cardiovascular disease. We can get diabetes. There's other things going on there. So you do want to focus on your body composition. But if you're doing appropriate strength training, then you're maintaining your muscle. The rest of that's just going to be done in the kitchen. So eating good whole foods is actually going to help you lose that body fat. So that's what we want to focus on there. Not so much the weight as to make sure that we're eating good foods and we're losing body fat. The next is balance. Okay, now balance is important because particularly as we get into our late 60s, particularly 70s, 80s, there's a lot of falls. There's a lot of falls. And most of the falls are sideways when they happen, that someone gets really, really hurt, bad. So if you fall sideways, and particularly if you haven't been lifting the weights for strength, you have the potential of breaking a bone. So having good balance is one of those things that can help prevent you from falling in the first place. The strength will help because when you do the resistance exercise, you're also helping to strengthen your bones, not just your muscles, you're strengthening your bones. So a good strength training regimen and then having some balance work. And I prefer to do balance work in a couple different planes. It'll be one foot or the other foot, so you get used to that. You mix that up a little bit. And then you can also kind of work on it from the perspective of moving side to side, being comfortable with your feet side to side and not tripping up as you move from side to side. So shuffles and what I call it with karaoke's, those types of movements will help you maintain lateral balance, which will prevent falls. So knowing those things, you do want to make sure that you maintain balance. And as you notice that your balance is getting worse, that's when you want to kind of turn on and say, okay, I need to focus a little bit more attention to balance. And then the other is life specific. So you have a grandchild and the grandchild wants to run around. So you're going to need maybe some additional cardiovascular fitness just so you can keep up with that little bugger. Maybe you want to play some tennis. And so hand-eye coordination and agility are something that you want to keep up with. Or maybe in your younger days, you were on the track team and you want to try some masters track. So some speed work might be something that would be important to you. So it's really about your lifestyle and what are those other little bits and pieces that are going to make you better at being that person. So that's where the last piece comes in. And so I've kind of gone over 5 different fitness modalities. There's strength, flexibility, total body composition, balance, and life specific. And those are the 5 that I would spend most of my time on. Now, it's really, really hard to do all of those at one time. And it's really, really hard to know which one matters most, which is why I want to take just a few minutes to go back over the GPS model that I talked about in episode 296. Now, GPS stands for grounding, personalizing, and self-awareness. If you do those three things, then you're going to know exactly what your body needs now. And so let's walk through the GPS model. So grounding is where we're going to take our why. So it's the grandchild. Okay, you want to be there for your grandchildren. Okay, the vision. What does it look like? Where do you want to be with your children? So grandchildren. So maybe you want to be the grandmother that can get down on the floor and color with them, and also run around the park with them and keep up with them. Be able to pick them up from the ground and walk with them. So if that's your vision of you with your grandchild, then now you have kind of this idea, okay, of what you need to look like, what your physicality needs to be, the type of human athlete, effectively, that you need to be that grandparent. Okay, if you take your why, which is your grandchildren, and then what that vision is, you now have a commitment. You can make a commitment to be that person, and you make that commitment out of self-love, just like you would make any other major commitment in your life, like when you get married or when you profess your faith at your church, or your synagogue, or your mosque, or whatever. When you go into this and say, "This is who I want to be, and this is why I want to be it, and I believe it in my heart, I emotionally want this," and through self love, you make that commitment, a strong, strong, emotional, deep commitment to make that happen. That's your grounding. Now you have a center. Now you have a reason to do this. And now you know what you need to do because you know what it looks like. Okay, now the personalizing is where you start thinking about, if you're going to take a trip and your GPS says, go up to the next intersection and turn left. Okay, so just like your GPS would tell you what to do, now that you're saying, okay, well, I want to be able to lift up my grandchildren, and I want to be able to keep up with my grandchildren. Okay. So those are two fitness modalities. I'm talking about strength and cardiovascular conditioning. So the life one. Okay. So at this point now you're saying to yourself, I know I'm gonna need my strength, and I know that I'm going to need to be able to keep up with them. So putting together a program or a set of goals now that says, okay, I want to be stronger. And how do you measure that? Well, okay, maybe you go in and you get your baseline. So you go do some work. So let's go over there and say, okay, I want to be able to deadlift and squat and bench press. So maybe that's the three lifts that I'm going to measure myself on. And those are what most weightlifters call the big three. We tested with those in high school. We use those as athletes. So the deadlift, the squat, and the bench press is kind of a good metric to know that you're building strength. Maybe for you, it's pull-ups and push-ups, but you kind of get the idea that you can come up with some baseline, and then you can start working on your overall body strength using compound movements. And then as you do that, you should notice improvement in those baseline exercises. So you'll set smart goals. You'll say, okay, I can bench press 100 pounds, or maybe it's 50 pounds, or maybe it's 20 pounds, but whatever it is, you have as a max strength. You say, I want to improve that by 10% this next month. And early on, that's 10% is possible. So it is one of those stretch goals. It's attainable, though. So as part of the SMART is attainable. If you try to keep going 10%, 10%, 10%, there's going to be a point where that's just not attainable because your strength curve just won't allow you to get that strong. But you can early on, particularly, see very large improvements in your strength as you get more comfortable with these exercises. So, setting a SMART goal that pushes you, making it time specific, within a month or within a quarter or within a year. Those are very good. I prefer the SMART goals to be shorter term. So saying you're going to do something within a year is really hard to keep you focused. Saying you do something within a month, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, those are probably a little bit more appropriate to ensure that you have consistency and you really work towards them. So set some SMART goals. So you want to work on strength, you set some SMART goals for strength. You want to work on cardiovascular. So maybe it is right now I can walk for 30 minutes without getting winded. I want to be able to add maybe another 100 meters to that 30 minutes by the next time I walk. So I'm walking faster. Okay, and I'm building speed. Or maybe you're going to turn that into some interval running. So maybe there's a little bit of jogging in there. So I'm going to jog to the signpost. And then, so over time, your expectation is either you get the distance done faster, or within the 30 minutes, you get more distance. So you can choose how you put those goals together, but you can set SMART goals for your running or for your walking and cardiovascular fitness kind of in the same realm. So you get involved. Now here's the thing is, nobody's perfect. Okay. We have physical limitations, But we also have capacities, and many people don't understand that their capacities often far exceed what their brain believes. But unfortunately, our body is never going to do more than what our brain believes. If you had a child trapped underneath a car, you've heard the stories of women and men that have been able to pick up a car to get that child out. How did they do that? Where did that strength come from? They inherently had it in them all the time. They just, when their brain turned off as to what limitations they had, their capacities kicked in. So taking some time to understand what your mental and physical limitations are is a very important step, because you don't want to break yourself. So don't go out there thinking you're going to be able to double your strength in a few days, and so therefore you got to work out every day. Be thinking in terms of, okay, I know when I work out, I get really sore and I'm sore for a day or two. So maybe I'm going to work out every other day, and I'm going to work out different body parts. So I'll do, maybe you're going to do a full body workout one day. You're going to take and go, and next day is going to be your running day or walking day. Then you're going to do another workout and then another walking day, and maybe then take a day off to rest and recover. And now what you've thought of is, okay, this is what I think my limitations and my capacities are right now from a physical perspective. And then you got to think about the mental perspectives. Okay, I know when I go to work and I work all day and I get off at 6 o'clock and I go to drive home and it's turn right to go to the gym or turn left to go home and have a glass of wine, I have to make that decision. But I'm tired. And I know in the evenings, I'm so tired that that's a very hard decision to make. So what do I do? Well, I say maybe I should do my workouts in the morning before I get tired, before it's really that hard. And I fix up my gym bag in the morning. I put it right in front of the door. I put my gym clothes right there on my dresser. So as soon as I get up, I see my gym clothes, I put my gym clothes on, I grab my bag, and I go out the door. If, for whatever reason, I don't get up in the morning, because maybe you're not a morning person, then I still have my gym clothes there. I still have my gym bag. So I take my gym clothes, I fold them up, I put them in my gym bag, and I dedicate myself to say, okay, my commitment based on my grounding, remember, I need to do this. So this gym bag is going to sit in my car on the passenger seat. When I come out of work, I'm going to see that gym bag sitting there, just like I would see a wedding ring on my finger, and say, hey, I committed to myself through self-love to do this thing. So tonight I turn right and I go to the gym. Okay. So I know it was a little while I went on to the GPS model, but I wanted to take a time and just talk about it again, because I think it's really, really important for us to get our minds right first. And this GPS process that I've laid out here is really about making sure you know why you're doing this, knowing what you should look like. And from that perspective, it really does kind of open up to, okay, these are the fitness modalities that are going to matter the most to me. I'll give you just go through a quick example for myself, okay? My why is my family. I want to be around for my family. I want to be around for my children and my grandchildren. And as I put together the vision of that, it was not just be there, not just be the cheerleader sitting on the bench watching them do what they do. I wanted to be engaged with them while they were doing the things they loved. My daughter was into CrossFit, and I was like, okay, I want to be able to do CrossFit. I want to be able to do, and she just wanted to do mud runs. I'm like, I want to be able to do those obstacle courses with her. That meant that I had to work on the fitness modalities to do that. Also, I want to have a lifestyle that I enjoy. I want to enjoy my life so I'm a better person. I'm a happier person to be around. And one of the things that was missing from my life at the point in time where I made that commitment was that I wasn't playing volleyball anymore. And it was really, really bumming me out that I wasn't capable of playing volleyball the way that I had been. And so I knew that that was a cardiovascular fitness thing. It was a mobility thing. And so to do the mud runs, I needed the cardiovascular fitness and I needed the strength. For me to do the volleyball, I needed the mobility and the cardiovascular. So you see how now I have three modalities that were very, very important to me because they tied in directly to my vision. They tied in directly to my why. And so by tying those all in, I now had a baseline, and it was a commitment, self-love, and now I know which of the fitness modalities matter most to me. Okay, I'm still going to go back and tell you, I think strength, mobility, which includes flexibility, and total body composition are things that we should always be working on. The others become important to us And we want to focus on those when they matter. So the question then is, if I've got all these fitness modalities, I can't do 18 different workouts a week to maintain or build all of these at the same time. So how do I go through a process of methodically building myself where I need to build myself, and then figure out how I can make all that work? Because it's just only so many hours in a day. We're mostly all working, so we've got to get things done, and then we have a very short window of time to kind of get this fitness thing done. So how do I do all of them? Well, there's a couple different things you can do. One is called cross training. So obviously, if you get into a cross training program, maybe it's a circuit for strength, and so therefore you're working your cardiovascular system and your strength at the same time. Maybe it's a process where you do something maybe like a boot camp where there's a little bit of all of it going on, and you'll see improvements. Particularly early on, you will definitely see improvements with anything that you do. So just know that early on, yes, work on all of it. But as you get a little bit stronger, as your mobility improves, as your cardiovascular fitness improves, you're going to find it very hard to do these cross training things that are going to just be sufficient for you to just do all the time. So you're going to want to focus on one thing at a time at points in time, just so you can improve those more. And so what that is a process that we call periodization. And with periodization, what you do is you figure out one or maybe two modalities, and you say for a period of maybe the next 6 or 8 weeks, that's my thing. Okay, I'm going to focus on that. So the first thing is periodization is basically where we're going to take one or two modalities and we're going to focus on it for about 6 to 8 weeks. And so that might mean I want to start really working on my strength, and I'm going to take about a 6-week period of time, and I'm really going to bear down on my strength training. So I'm going to get those compound movements that I want to do. I'm going to put in maximal effort for my strength, and I'm going to really bear down on that. And then after I finish that 6 to 8 weeks, then I'm going to mix up my program. So maybe body composition is also something that I'm very interested in building. So I do a period of time, like I said, for strength. I get done with that 6 to 8 week period, and I say, okay, now I'm going to change up my programming to make it work a little bit more for building muscle mass. And there are slight tweaks and variations of those. For the most part, if you're working strength, you're going to see some muscle mass improvement. If you're working muscle mass improvement, you're going to see some strength, but they're not a complete overlap. There's ways to maximize and optimize one over the other. So you periodize that. Or, as we were talking, for me, I want mobility, I want strength, and I want cardiovascular fitness. So what I may say is I'm going to do a strength period, and with the strength period, I'm going to work mobility, and then I say during my cardiovascular period, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to work mobility. So I do a big strength push, and I'm doing mobility on the side, and then I do a big cardiovascular push, and I build mobility on the side, and then I can alternate and go back into strength. So you see where you can get these things all improved. And then as you do that, you are going to see improvements, maximal improvements, optimal improvements in that particular modality. So I would never really say just do one modality, particularly if you notice doing multiple ones together gets you the results. But if you find that you plateau, your strength's not really improving, your mobility is not really improving, your cardiovascular fitness is not really improving, then that might just be a time for you to really bear down on that certain modality. So the answer, as you said, is really both. And I would say it's even more all-encompassing than both. It's really all of them. You should be aware of how all of them impact your vision, how they're going to impact your life, and you should dedicate the appropriate amount of time to each of those 5 modalities that we talked about. So I hope this has been helpful. Again, if you have any questions at all, please go to the contact page and leave me a message on SpeakPipe. I get back to those immediately with kind of the short answer. If it's valid enough and long enough, something that makes sense for me to do a podcast on, I will in fact do a podcast. And otherwise, you can email the question to me, and if you're comfortable with it, I'll read your email and do the same thing with a podcast episode. So again, please do reach out if you have questions. I love that interaction. I love that opportunity to have that. And I want to take your question because you're not the only one with that question. There's others out there. And I want to take the questions that you have and I want to teach others with that. That all said, I am going to somewhat change up the format here. I haven't really done a lot of solo episodes since the year started. It's been a lot of interviews. Wow, I might not even done a single solo episode since the year started. So I'm going to actually start mixing in a few more solo shows as we go. So it might be something like a 3-to-1 ratio, sometimes maybe 2-to-1. We'll see how that works out. But I do want to have some more solo shows. And I do want to continue to bring on experts on topics that matter to you. So just, kind of know that I am out there. If you have topics, issues, things you're concerned about, I'm available. Reach out to me. I do want to make this show important to you. I want to make it as valuable to you as I possibly can. So please do reach out to me so I can do that for you. Thank you. Next time on the 40 Plus Fitness podcast, we meet TJ Anderson and discuss his book, The Art of Health Hacking. Until then, have a happy and healthy week.